Hello, email geeks. This is this month's podcast where we are going to talk about image optimization and videos in email. As always, I'm Stephen Sale, one of your hosts, and our lovely co-host, Jay. Hello, Jay.
Hello.
Right, so where would you like to start on image optimization?
Probably the question I get most often, and I want to know your answer before I give mine, is what is the biggest size that a static image should be, and what is the biggest size a GIF should be as like a best practice?
Oh, okay. In the hot seat. So I tend to keep my static images as close to 100 kilobits as possible, and then animated GIFs. I mean, there's some opinions where it should be no larger than 1 megabyte, but I'd say maybe up to 3 is like the sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean that sounds pretty similar to us. So we tend to say that like we try and get GIFs as small as possible.
Yeah,
obviously, there's loads of reasons why it's very difficult, but yeah, so we tend to aim for like 2 to 3 megabytes, but then we always say, well, like as we say with email everywhere, it's like it depends, right? Like, so if you know you're sending to a audience that are based in London, and it's probably people that are on Apple computers, and they're probably going to sit and look at it on Wi-Fi because it's a B2B email, then you can put wherever you want because it's a Wi-Fi thing, so you could do whatever. And I think Nike did like a 10 megabyte GIF once, and people were like, "Whoa, that's insane!" But actually, like thinking about it, the audience that they were sending to was probably, they were either on Wi-Fi or in a city that had like 5G or something like that. So actually downloading it wasn't too bad. I don't think we'd ever plan to go that large unless it was something really specific. But yeah. So we say between like optimize for like 2 to 3 for like GIFs, and then for static images, we actually say a little bit bigger. We say we aim to have below 200 kilobytes. So that's like double what you were saying.
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, it's like it's the same as everything, right? Like we try and get as small as possible the whole time. It's just that having that number is a good starting point, especially if you're working with
baseline, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially working with designers who are not specifically looking at email, which sometimes as an email team, you need someone to create a PNG or a JPEG for you, or whatever it is. They might just create like a 6,000 by 6,000 pixel image that's like 10 megabytes, and you're like, that's not really what I needed. So yeah, having a simple guideline of like, up to 200 kilobytes, but as low as possible. Yeah, that's
Sorry, Jay. With images, or maybe the better question is, what DPI do you usually use?
So we go for 72 because it's just the like plain kind of for web kind of, we find that that's enough. Rather than going for the larger 300 DPI for print. But that's often the first place we would look if someone does supply us an image and it's massive. And you're like, I don't really know why this image is so big file size wise. And often it's someone's literally just taken their print advert and sent us the clip of it and the crop of it. And it's like, that was meant for print on a billboard that was massive. It's not going to, we don't need that for a mobile phone on Gmail is not really quite the same as a billboard, is it?
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I've come across PNG icons or GIF icons, whichever format you use. They can seem a little bit blurry sometimes if you just have them as a 72. So I tend to double it up to 144, and that seems to make them a little bit sharper, especially with iPhones with their Retina displays. Sometimes increasing images to 144 DPI just gives it a little bit more, or makes it a little bit more clearer, I find.
Do you double the size of your images as well? Like say in the code you had an icon that was 40 pixels by 40 pixels, do you do the image to 40 by 40, or do you do 80 by 80 and then the code shrinks it to 40 by 40?
Sometimes do a bit of a mixture, to be honest, because like you've pointed out, like I've pointed out, as we discussed before, iPhone's Retina displays typically 2 times pixel density, I think it is. So
Yeah,
if you have...
I was just going to say the thing that my design, a couple of our designers at Action Rocket mention a lot is they have 4K screens that are Apple screens. So that's 4 times, I think, isn't it?
4 times, yeah.
4 times. So yeah, when we're doing images, they're like, "It looks so blurry on my screen," and I'm like, "It looks fine on mine. What are you talking about?"
It works on my machine.
Yeah.
The sentence that gets us all, again, I default into our favorite phrase, it depends. But for icons, I think I've actually done both in some instances where it's double the size but still 144 dpi, dots per inch if you want to get technical. I wonder if you do like a 600 by 600 pixel image, if the weight is any different from doing 144 pixels or doing the images 1200 by 1200 and keeping it as 72 dpi.
I don't know. I've never tried. I imagine it's all probably as well to do with the colors and other things like that as well.
Yes, the amount of colors. So one of the other things I said that we'd discuss was obviously video and animated GIFs. With animated GIFs, there's settings. So I usually export from Photoshop first.
Yep.
And within Photoshop, in the settings, you can either limit the amount of colors the GIF has in multiples of 8s, I believe. So I think you can do 8, 16, then all the way up to 256, which I believe is the largest amount of color selection you can get in an animated GIF.
So yeah, you can go down to 2, but I don't like that. It can be like, it goes like 2 for I don't know the exact breakdown, but I know that the lowest is 2 and the highest is 256. Yeah, so you are limited on colors with
and that's why sometimes if you get animations and email or a video converted down into a GIF, it looks like it's patchy, blotchy. So there's been instances where I've seen, like, if there's people moving in a animated GIF, the face goes a bit blotchy. But when you're trying to control file size, if you can use less colors, that will save a lot of weight, basically. Then the other thing to consider with animated GIFs is the amount of frames that they have. So when you film video, I believe it could be from like 30 frames per second all the way up to, could be 60 plus. And if you're just doing a short animation, but it's filmed at like 60 frames per second, that's a lot of data. But I believe, going back to my uni days where we were doing Flash animations, I think the minimum standard for web was 12 frames a second. Feel free to pick me up on that.
I honestly don't know the ideal frames per second. I would just say that when you're just trying to find the savings for the file size, but then also like thinking about optimizing it so that it doesn't look too blurry and stuff like that, I've definitely removed frames, and then a lot of the time removing duplicate frames or reducing the frame like length. Yeah, if like a frame lasts for 1 second, can you get away with lasting it for like half a second or something like that? So playing with the reducing the frames, reducing the length of the frames, and then things like that basically.
Yeah. So what tools do you typically use when you optimize your GIFs?
So I learned on Photoshop to export the GIFs. So I use the Save for Web Legacy thing and then choose how I can't remember what it's called, the way the colors mix together, where it's like dissolvement or something like that.
Diffusion.
Diffusion, the diffusion. And then the amount of colors, so I can manually reduce the colors or delete colors. Also, whether there's the color from the background, if there's any transparency. So making sure that is set if there is any transparency as well, or setting it to blank. Yeah. And then manually going along through the timeline, decreasing the length of the frames or deleting duplicate frames. And then also, because we're doing it for email, a common thing I would have to do is make sure the first frame for Outlook had all the information in it, and then making sure all the frames then afterwards are so often rearranging the frames. So where a designer that maybe didn't know this about email would put all the frames and then the last one would be the one, I'd move the last one to the front and I might make it last or I duplicate it and move it to the front and make it last like less than 0.1 of a second or something.
Yeah, so in Photoshop you can actually set it as 0. So that's what I do. I usually duplicate the last frame, put it to as the first frame, and set it to 0.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Like our designers, because they're used to it, they do all kinds of funny tricks where they like start a GIF halfway through, and that's where it has all the actual information, and then the rest of it is actually, so it starts in the middle, but because it's so fast, it kind of goes all the way through before you realize that kind of stuff. So
it's like ease in, ease out kind of thing.
Yeah. So they've kind of figured out the best way for it to look, and then I just take what they give me and then check it works, and it's normally fine. So Photoshop first, and then the second is if I've run out of things I can do in Photoshop, then EZGIF, so EZGIF.com, I think it is. Yeah, EZGIF.com. Yes. And then there's optimize /optimize. And then on that, they have all kinds of compressions. So I just play with the buttons, or they've got a dial of like, I think it's 0 to 100 or 0 to 200 or something.
Yeah, the lossy dial.
Yeah. So you can like put that, if someone's giving me like a 10 megabyte GIF, I'll just whack it straight up to 100 and be like, to see what happens. And if it comes out all right and you're like, oh, it's under 2 megabytes, wicked, I'm done. And I don't have to play with anything else. Those are the two things I do.
That is the exact same process that I use. So I scoured the internet to see what settings other people used in the legacy export for Photoshop. So I believe that it's like diffusion set to 100%, and then set to adaptive or selective. There's quite a lot of different settings.
I'm going to open Photoshop now. I've got Photoshop open. Let me see if I can find hang on, let me save for web to load, and then we can. Yeah, so you've got, that must be colors, yeah. So color reduction algorithm. So you can choose like selective, adaptive, restrictive, custom.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Number of colors, and then the dither algorithm.
That was
diffusion, pattern, or noise, and then the dither, which is like how much that algorithm. Oh, and then the matte is the color.
Okay.
So like the matte is black, or defines color to blend transparent pixels against, is what it says. And then transparency. And then, there's a couple of other things. So you've got the lossy, which is the like compression, and then the web snap, which I believe is how the colors are defined. So if you increase the web snap, and you have less colors and they're more defined, like moving a dial, it like changes it. So those are all the things you can play with. But I often find that if you know exactly what you're doing, so like our designers, that all they do all day is work in After Effects.
There is After Effects, and then for video editing, I think it's Premiere.
Yeah, so I think they do the majority of their animation in After Effects, and then they might, or if it's simple enough, they'll do it in Photoshop. So they obviously know what all of those settings do and are constantly doing that. So for them to be like, oh, I'll just adjust this and then it looks amazing, is fine. But actually, for me, I'd spend 20 minutes trying to figure out how it looks good. And the way I haven't figured out how it looks good is I just press a button and see what happens. And then I'm like, yeah, that's worse. So then I press a different button and then it works. So I kind of do the same thing every time. But like if I'm out of my depth, I'm just pressing things to see what happens.
Quick, thank God for the undo button, eh?
Yeah. Remember what it was on before? Yeah, that was better. Okay, let's just go with that. Yeah. And then like you said, like just an easy GIF, because like if something is massive and I try and open it in Photoshop and Photoshop crashes because there's so many things, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to use EZGIF to just.
And to be fair, EZGIF is really fast for when you're playing with the amount of compression, and then even testing, because it does more than just optimizing. That it can remove duplicate frames and even adjust the speed and things like that.
I think you can like crop and resize and like it can do so many things.
It's a great free tool to use. So if you haven't heard of it, that's EZGIF.com/optimize if you're going to optimize.
Yeah, I use for all of the talks or presentations or like work things that I do, I quite often screen record something. So I might screen record an email or screen record me doing something. And then for a presentation, I can't import the video. So I quite often use the EZGIF have a video to GIF thing that you can use. Yeah. So I just upload the video there and then download it as a GIF. And the bonus of doing that is when you upload the video, you then change it to a GIF, but then you can straight away go to the optimize section. So like we'll do like a minute video, make that a GIF, and it's like 20 megabytes. You're like, okay, well that's not that's not going to work. I can't just
That's not
send that
ideal.
information to someone. Yeah. So then I'm straight into the optimize, like make it smaller, blah blah blah. So yeah, it's really good, I think. And also it's probably perfect for exactly what you're talking about, really, where if you are thinking of putting a video in an email, GIF might be the way to go, in which case you could use this video to GIF converter and you haven't got to get a designer to do anything for you.
Yeah, definitely. So you've just brought up video in email. That's a good segue. How do you usually add video into your emails?
So we've always had this discussion with a lot of our clients. So we work with a lot of clients that said that video would make perfect sense for them. So like the BBC is probably the biggest one, right? So they're a TV program in the UK. They do TV. They have like Doctor Who, all those like big names. So always there's video clips or trailers. So we're always been thinking about how is the best way to get video, the experience of video in email, or how would you use video for email? So really the crux for us has always been the way that you host the video. So
Yes.
you can't like embed a YouTube video or a Vimeo video or anything like that within email and get it to play. So if you want to send a video to somebody, you have to host it the same as you do an image. So you have to put it on your servers or a CDN or whatever it is. And the problem with video is it's really long, really big. And the problem with email is everyone opens it in a very small window of time.
Yes.
And often if you're like someone like the BBC is sending to like 6 million people. So if you've got like a 1 megabyte video that goes on for like a minute or whatever it is, when you send the email, even if you only have like a 20 to 30% open rate, you're still getting like 1 million people trying to look at that same video all at once.
Yes.
And it's all coming down from your servers, and it needs to not buffer and it needs to load instantly. So in order for a server to do that, it needs to have, all the compute power, all the RAM, everything like up to max, so that when you send the email, everyone gets it crisp and clear.
Yes.
But then after the first 10 minutes, no one then watches that video ever again. So you're paying loads of money for all of that storage and servers and everything else for that 5-10 minutes where everyone opens it. And then after that, no one does it again. So, and normally, like if you're like a smaller company, if you're using like AWS or you're using like somewhere else, you normally just pay for your server costs that stay pretty similar the whole way. And if something spikes, it's going to be a really big cost to you. So often the barrier that we've always found is that is the first step, is where are you going to host it, and can it handle the 1 million people trying to download it all at once? Like that's the YouTube infrastructure that you've got to handle for that one email. So how do you do that? And then the second thing is you don't know what's happened. Like you don't know if anyone's played that video. You don't know if anyone's played it from the start to the end. It might not have loaded. So even if we do get the video there and we can do it and people can open it and it loads really quick, we have no idea if someone's watched it for 5 seconds or the whole minute or how it's performed or anything. So we've always tended to say, put it on something like a landing page, or if you have it on YouTube, like send people to YouTube. And then all of the infrastructure and analytics, and if you can put it on your own website, you can put call to actions underneath it, you can give more information. If there's products in it, you can directly advertise them next to the video, and you can track the clicks and how far in the video they got and how many views and stuff like that. So you can do all of that on a web page, and you can't do any of that in an email. So we've tended to go with what I think the majority of people is we take a small snippet of the video, make it into a really nice looking GIF, stick a play button over the top, and then you click on it, and then that takes you somewhere, right? So that's what we've tended to do. There's things out there that can help. So there's a couple of tools out there that now allow you to play video in email, and they handle all of the hard stuff. So there's one called playable.tv, which is Australian. They are pay per view, essentially. So if you send it to 1 million people, but only 2 people watch it, you only pay the price for 2. So that's kind of cool. But
that's really good.
1 million people might watch it, so then that's another cost. That is that. And the way they do it is really cool. You upload your video, and then they take the video you upload and they break it into all of the different types of video it could be. So on an iPhone, when you open a video, it's actually a format called HEIC or HEIC, and it's a specific format that Apple use, and it's the best format for their devices. So obviously, I couldn't do that as an email developer, but their back-end stuff or whatever, the servers and stuff they recognize what device it is, and they send the best possible video. So you get MP4, you get slightly lesser, not HD, you might get like, what's the opposite? Standard definition, I guess. You might get standard definition if you're on a slower connection. But then also they're set up so that they create the GIF for you. If you if the email client can't receive a video, they'll send a GIF. And then if none of that works, they'll send a static image to Outlook on Windows. And you can either set that as the thumbnail or the poster or whatever you want to call it for a video. And they'll do all that for you. So you just upload it once, double check that it all looks cool, and then it's good to go. They give you like a little block of code that you just paste in. It's basically like an image and some video stuff, and it sorts itself out. Yeah, so that's a really cool service. And then the other one is a company called iMail, which is like your EYE mail. And that is, her name's Lisa Jones. She's based in the US, and she came up with this technology. And she actually has partnered with Outlook and is the only company where you can send video that will work in Outlook. Wow. So there's a specific patented partnership that goes on there. So if you ever want to send video using like two people that use Outlook as well as all the others, and iMail is the way to go. All of them have costs, so you have to think about if it's worth it. But the people that are using that kind of service are Formula One, Netflix, Hulu. So they're like
streaming services and things like that.
Companies, right? Yeah. So they've got the budget to not worry about that kind of thing. Whereas I think for a smaller company, I think it is slightly prohibitively expensive. But yeah, we've over the past week, I've been investigating how you could put video in email and had a look at all of the old articles that are out there and stuff like that. And a couple of things jumped out at me that I hadn't realized and that I've been testing, which I haven't finalized yet, but I'm pretty much there, is that there is, in Apple, you can add an MP4 file to an image tag and it will play as if it's a video, but it just won't have any sound. So
that's crazy.
That's a cool thing you could do. So you could put that in like a source set within a picture tag, and then if it supports video, it will show the video, and then if it doesn't, then it will fall back to maybe the next image that you've got in there. You could fall back to a GIF.
So yeah, it's almost kind of missing a step, isn't it? Or a step in between video and an animated GIF, because I'm guessing that the quality is still video.
Yep, still video quality. So you still get everything from a video. The only thing you don't get is sound, and you don't get the play buttons or the pause buttons. So it just plays automatically, which is kind of cool anyway.
Can be good.
And then, so for specific video use cases, I think it probably would work. Like if you're showing a trailer for something or a small advert, or, how to use something in your product and you're like showing like a video, where previously you might have used a GIF just by using a picture element and using source set and putting MP4 in the source set. And then the next bit having an image element and having your GIF. You're then covering anyone that does support that will get a much better video in there. And the really cool thing about it is if it doesn't work, then it'll just fall back to the image. So you haven't got to do any CSS. You haven't got to use any hacks to try and target Apple Mail or anyone else. Like it's all just within that element. So it's quite a nice, safe way to do it. So I think that's pretty cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then otherwise it's just the video tag. So the same way that every article's done it for the past 10 years, as far as I can tell. You have your video tag, you have your the video within the video tag, and then wrapped within the closing video tag is another image, which is essentially the fallback. So if the video doesn't work, you get the image, and you can put anything in there. So you could have the video, and then you could, for the fallback, you could have an image, some text, and a CTA button. So if the video didn't work, you could have a whole module in there if you wanted to. And the drawback for that one is that you have to have some targeting, because Outlook will try and play it. It won't work. So it will show a broken button. So you have to hide it from Outlook. So you've got to like do some funky
the hacks.
Stuff. Yeah, to get it to work. Yeah, if you've overcome the server problem, you've overcome the fact that you don't really want it on a web page, then I think if you don't need sound, go with the picture, and then if you do need sound, go with the video tag, and you're just going to have to use those hacks to kind of get around it. Yeah, so you can use video and email. I'm still on the fence. I still don't think I've seen like a really good reason to put a video in, unless like using the picture tag and having a video with no sound, so you get a better, essentially you're just getting a better quality GIF. I think that makes sense. But any other time that someone might want to put a video in with the play buttons and you see what they're doing, I still think you probably want to go to a landing page, really.
Yeah, like you mentioned, when you're using video and email, so an actual video, you start to lose all the metrics. So you don't get, like you said, you don't get how many people have watched it. And without metrics, you can't really gauge the value of adding it into the email, especially when you mention the cost behind your own hosting platform, making sure it's scaled and powered up. So if you have, again, it depends on your audience size, but if you have 1 million people trying to access that, if you're hosting it on your own servers that also host other parts, like your website, you don't want to bring your website down. I guess it's just mitigating the risk factors at the end of the day. And then if there's value in it, like you say, I completely get it for all the big streaming services when you want to preview a new headline title that's coming out soon and you want to give people previews, because it's just showing the quality of what people can get from your service. And you want to promote that in the best way possible. But if there's just a small, manufacturing company where they might want to put in a video of the process the factory goes through to make a particular item or something, is that worth it to that company? Or in some cases, could an animated GIF be better? Or even the MP4 Hack, which sounds really good. Another thing with animated GIFs, there is a format for animated PNGs. So where animated GIFs are limited to 256 colours, PNGs don't have that limitation. So when it comes to animated PNGs, you could possibly use that. But I've not seen much literature or any articles about animated PNGs in email at this moment in time. Have you seen anything?
No one's written anything down, I don't think. I think we might have an article possibly on the Action Rocket site, but it's probably buried in like another one about like nothing specifically on them. I think we seriously looked at them when dark mode came out, because you can, with an APNG, you can get the transparency. Yes. Whereas with GIF, sometimes the transparency, especially if things are moving, you get that like jagged edge, like on the edge, like things. Yes. So we seriously looked at it for APNGs, but we found that the hardest thing with images, if you're trying to show one type of image to one email client and another type of image, you're doubling your work. So if you would need to create a GIF and an APNG, you're doubling two. But then also you've got to figure out how to target each of them. And the biggest drawback for APNG was, I mean, I think it still literally is just Gmail that doesn't really support it. So because Gmail doesn't support it, and in Europe and the US, that's quite a large market share most of the time. So the fact is just not worth that extra effort. But then also, I think the tools to make APNGs are harder. So you can't make an APNG in Photoshop, for example. So you have to use something else. And I think there isn't as many tools because it's not as popular an image format. So then you need a bit of a specialist knowledge to kind of create those APNGs. So yeah, I just think it's definitely there as a use case, that if it fits for your use case, then it's perfect. Like, it's transparent, it's got more colors, it's probably a smaller file size than the GIF would be anyway. And if Gmail isn't your main audience, or you have the ability to create a GIF specifically for Gmail and then show everyone else an APNG, then, you know, it's all good. Outlook also doesn't support it. Like, Outlook desktop Windows doesn't support APNG, which is probably not a surprise to many people. But you've then got to create, like, you need to create the image. So if you're creating a GIF for Gmail, an APNG for everyone else, you've either got to make the first framework for Outlook, or you need to find another way to show another image just for Outlook. So then you're creating 3 images for that one thing. So,
and also, I guess technically, so if you have 3 different images for different email clients, they all still add weight to the email regardless if the email client uses that particular image, because it still downloads
Still
it.
downloaded. Yeah.
So it's adding quite a lot of extra weight.
And it's downloads in line as well. So yeah, if most of the time, in the majority of cases, you're going to want that as your main hero image, is probably the thing that you're going to want to use. So then it's probably at the top of your email. So you're waiting for all three of those images to download for that top part of your email before anything that's underneath it might load. So you're kind of possibly going to have issues there. Yeah, I mean, the other option is WebP. So WebP is another format, but animated WebP, again, doesn't have as good support. So Gmail doesn't support animated WebP, but it does support WebP if it isn't animated. Outlook doesn't support it at all, again. So you've still got to figure out a way to do it for Outlook. And yeah, there might be some other edge cases that you've got to kind of take into account. So WebP is annoying because WebP was created by Google to make a better file size and for streaming and like quality and all that. So again, it's another thing that Google's created that it doesn't want to use in its own Gmail.
Its own system.
Yeah. So you could look at WebP as well. If you have the ability to have a CDN that can deliver images as the best format for what someone's looking at it on. So if someone's looking at it on a website, it could be a WebP, but then if they look at it on, I don't know, their iPhone, maybe it needs to be a different format or anything like that. So if you have a CDN that can deal with that, then it could be worth like turning all the options on, and then if something does support WebP, it will show WebP kind of thing. Unfortunately, realistically, we're probably still stuck with GIFs for a little bit longer.
Just a little bit longer.
Just a little bit longer.
That's what I've been telling myself about Outlook for the past 10 years. Things will get better.
It's going to go soon.
Only time will tell on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would like, if you're like the same with everything in email, you're always weighing up the choices, aren't you? So, you know, there are other things you can do as well. So if you're something we did with BBC a long time ago, which we haven't done since for quite a while actually, is when we created a GIF, we wasn't happy with the quality of the GIF, and it was for a program. I can't remember what the program was called, but the trailer for it had lots of like blended color and lots of overlapping faces with colors kind of blending in and out. Right. So when we created the GIF from it, it lost loads of colors. It wasn't very good. It was quite patchy. Yeah, so the GIF just wasn't really doing it. So we then thought about what else could we do. So in that instance, we decided, luckily, we knew that Apple Mail was quite a large portion of their audience, so it was worth the effort. So we actually used CSS animation. So we created every frame, which luckily there was only about 10 frames. We had the full double size single frame of the image, and then we use CSS animation. We use steps in CSS animation to put it together as if it was a GIF. So it just played like constantly looping through images by fading them against each other. So by doing that, we showed a GIF to everybody basically, and then we showed this special CSS animation wherever it was supported. So Apple Mail, Thunderbird, iOS Mail, etc., that supported CSS animation. So, or if you clicked view online and saw it on a website, then you could get this better image. So because we knew the audience size and there was a specific image and the whole email was about this one program, it was worth the extra effort to figure that out, create all that extra animation, do the extra targeting and testing to make sure it worked. That was kind of cool. So that is a good, like, so you got that in your back pocket as well. But then, yeah, you're thinking about, you know, if you've got to create that email, 10 different versions of that email with 10 different images and 10 different trailers, is it quicker to go with GIFs, that kind of thing? So yeah, everyone's kind of thinking about it themselves on how they can optimize things. Oh, I've got a question for you. Just thought of.
What's the question?
EZGIF for GIFs. Have you got another one that you use for PNGs or JPEGs? Or do you just manually do something?
I do it in Photoshop with the Save for Web. That is actually a good point. We didn't actually really cover that when we were talking about image sizes. Usually when I try and optimize images for web, for email, I tend to use the optimize or Save for Web option in Photoshop. And with JPEGs, there's just the slider. And I look at the quality, make sure there's no artifacts, the little square blockiness of the image. But I tend to find around 80 is a pretty good sweet spot. But again, it depends if you really need to compress an image or not. So you can always move that higher or lower depending on the use case. Because again, it all comes down to it depends. It's how many colors are in the image. Is there a lot of intricate little details that you can't really risk not being seen? So it's just a case of play around with it until it works for your use case. How about yourself? What tool do you use?
So we've used TinyPNG.com.
Yeah.
So that has a free tier of like, I think it's 20 pictures, and you can compress like each image can be up to 20 megabytes, which none of our images are over 20 megabytes in size. So it's very seldom when we do that. But yeah, that one's handy for the good thing about that one is that when you can upload multiple images all at once, but then when you download them, they've got exactly the same name. So you can either overwrite them in your original folder and it's done, or you can like save a optimized image folder and it's got the same name. And then that way, if you're developing an email and you're using like local file paths, you just like add the extra bit in and you haven't got to go through and find like, compressed image 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever. Like there's none of that to worry about.
What I've found recently, this is a slight tangent, it's just because you're on about adding that extra bit into your local file path, is so I use VS Code when coding emails. Basically, I believe it's updated so it has like a bit of AI built into it now. So when I'm going through and making, let's say, repetitive changes, so using like Ginger, if you're referring to like product 1, product 2, product 3, product 4, and I've got them in like loads of different sections, if I change one, because the link might refer to product 1, the image might refer to product 1, and the placeholder for the text might say product 1 as well. If I go and replace one of those as like product 2, it'll then suggest updating it in like the next section and the next section, and you can just press tab. So just like change like that, or links, or just things like that. I found it really handy.
Yeah, that's the Copilot built in. So that's the
built-in Copilot.
So that's the GitHub Copilot built in. Yeah, that helps you like do those kind of things. Yeah. That is one of my favorite features, because one of the like when we're creating, I've been working on an email design system recently, and loads of the files have the same path, or the variables might be named very similarly. So if I go through and edit a variable, like you said, it will then highlight where all the other ones are, and then I can then either decide, oh yeah, tab, change them all, or it highlights it and I go, oh, I didn't realize that variable was there. Was that meant to be there? And then I can like remember it rather than
kind
like
of debug as you go along.
Yeah. Changing it in one place, and then you're like, oh man, I just saw it over there, and then you're like jumping around. So yeah, it's definitely cool that it does that. Yeah, and I love the coming from years ago when I had Dreamweaver, and then now using VS Code, having the ability to press Command and D to select the same thing every single time is like a
yes, I use that quite a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, small things for the email developers. I'm sure there's plenty of web developers out there. They're like, we've been doing that for years. What are you talking about? And it's like, yeah, we know, we're behind.
It's the little things, and hey, if you find something to make your job easier, then it makes you happy.
So going back to that like image compression thing, the TinyPNG, you can use it on the web, so you can just like upload your images, but they do also have a command line tool, so you can download it, and then literally if you finish doing your email, then you can open your terminal and go, compress these images, and it will just do the folder of images for you, and then you can say whether you want to replace them or do something else. So you can, we've got that in our workflow to be like quite, you do your whole email, and then before you final done kind of thing, you're like, oh, what else do I need to do? Oh, I just need to optimize the images. So you just
v3_final_ this one _ please use this.
I don't know what you mean, Stephen. I don't know what you mean. Yeah. So having it there is quite handy as well.
Another tool that I use is Remove.bg. If I ever need to quickly remove backgrounds, I know Photoshop or the like latest versions of Photoshop do have a remove background tool. But if I just want to do something rather quickly, I use Remove.bg because the free version has a limitation of images of 500 pixels by 500 pixels that it returns anyway.
Yeah.
But for my use cases, it's always been just really easy. And like I say, you can just drag multiple images on, or if you've already hosted them, you can just copy and paste the URL and things like that. I found that pretty handy.
Yeah. I've definitely used that as well, loads. The other thing, I guess, is when thinking about dark mode images, while we're talking about images, I guess, if you're using Photoshop, for example, if you've got like an icon or like a black logo or like lines or like social media icons, then it's really quick to add an outline using the effects. So you can just go in, choose outline, pick your pixel width of your outline, match it to your background. And then if the background color does change in dark mode, then your image still is sitting there on its, like, if it's a black line and you've got a white background, you add a little outline of white on it. And then when the background flips, you can still see it. But then also when you're creating, if you are swapping images, so say it's a logo and you have a black logo and you want to swap it to a white one or dark mode, you can quickly invert the image, just Command and I inverts the image, and then you can export it as a PNG and you've kind of done it. So really quick to kind of work with those kind of tools in Photoshop to help you out. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what else I do with images. Some of our team have played with using generative AI in Photoshop to help with, sometimes we get product photos from brands where it's not quite wide enough.
Yes.
And, it's like a coffee mug on a table, or, a piece of food on a plate or something, and the image is just cut off at the right point where you just need that extra bit of plate. Like, before, you used to use a clone tool or copy and like transform stuff or whatever. But actually, Photoshop's generative AI is actually pretty good now. So you can be like, fill in the plate or whatever, and it'll just fill in the extra bit or extend the table a few pixels or whatever that you need. So yeah, that's definitely helped with making sure we can use any picture that's kind of given to us to kind of do what we need to do.
Yeah, it's annoying if you get pictures that are just, if you have to resize them to fit the email and you end up with, like, I don't know, a 50 pixel gap at one side, or if you try and center it, you have 225 gaps. That was, I've experienced that problem before, and you have to just try and get a bit of creative. Can you get away with like duplicating and flipping the image and then just using like the heel brush to blur it out a little bit? And
I mean, occasionally you still do have to reach for that kind of thing if you're filling in something. But yeah, to be honest, from what the designers have shown me, and to be honest, I don't think it's ever been used in like the final production of something. It's just been used as like a, we need to do this quickly to show the client that we need this bigger image,
like
or
mocking up
things. So so it's kind of cool that way. I think with all of the AI stuff, the only thing that I would say is if you're thinking about using it, double check exactly what the image outputs. I don't know if anyone went to or saw the landing page, I think it's still there, for the Parcel Unpacked conference. They used AI to turn every one of the speakers into like an astronaut, because it was like an alien space theme or something.
Yeah.
And if you know the talkers, so like Mark Robbins was one of the speakers, so his image, I would say, doesn't quite look like Mark. You can be like, oh, that is Mark, but like it doesn't quite. And my image, I look slightly different as well. My wife was like, who's done that to your image? And I was like, I don't know what you mean. But like knowing that, like obviously that was a bit of fun and like it didn't really matter. But if you were taking an image that was of somebody and then putting it into an email and you ended up using AI to try and transform it, just double check. I don't know the AI.
Overboard.
Yeah, it's not gone overboard. It hasn't like got rid of all your wrinkles or smoothed things out. Or
I mean, people might be appreciative of that.
I mean, like if it works, it works. But yeah, just be conscious that keep that in mind. And also just from an agency point of view, we actually have, every one of our clients, we have a signed contract. Some of them say that you can't use AI, like it's part of their, like, you can't use AI.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So if you are working for an agency and thinking about these tools, just double check that the client hasn't got specific. One of our clients, it's their organization's policy that they don't use AI at all.
Yeah.
So in that case, we don't use it for like any of our work in terms of what we do for them. And then others that are less bothered. So it really just depends. But yeah, keep an eye on that kind of stuff.
There's that phrase again.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I can't think of anything else specifically for images in email.
The only other thing I was thinking about is when it comes to animation, because there is, I believe I wrote a post about accessibility in email before, and part of that covered like cognitive load. So people can be sensitive to like animations in email. So if you open an email and there's quite a lot going on and it's very busy, cognitive overload. So they struggle reading it.
Yeah,
basically becoming inaccessible to them. So I tend to limit my GIFs to only play 3 times. So it'll just play 3 times and then it'll just stop. And then I believe if you reload the email or open it in the web browser, it'll then again play 3 times and then just stop. That's just a little thing I've added in to make sure that it hopefully doesn't cause issues with anyone who is sensitive to animations. So that's just one other thing to consider when using animated GIFs or animations in email, is just the cognitive load. Make sure that it just isn't too overstimulating, I think might be a better phrase to say.
Yeah, that like I think Megan from Megan Bushhausen that we had on here, she shared one email that it wasn't one animation that like triggered it. It was that there was lots of animations. So I think it was like a product email, and it had like a product grid of like 9 products, and then every single one of them was animated, and they were all just moving all over the place. And she was like, I can't deal with that. Like there's too much going on. Like why are all 9 of the products like moving? Like I can't concentrate on one or the other. And I definitely get that as well. Yeah. So thinking about if you are putting animations in that you haven't got, like everything doesn't need to move in an email. You can just limit the animation to a certain thing. Yeah. The only accessibility guideline that I was thinking of was the number of flashes per second. So for people with like photosensitive epilepsy and things like that, the WCAG guidelines are 3, like a maximum of 3 flashes per second. So you can't have anything more than that. But I don't see that very often. Like, you know, I think it was a Simpsons cartoon when they went to Japan, and there was the flashing transformer robots, and they all had like epileptic fits where they were flashing like 100 times a second or whatever, in the program. But yeah, I haven't seen many GIFs that do that. One interesting question I did have on a workshop actually, when I was talking to a developer, where they were looking at accessibility, and they were saying one of the guidelines is that you should be able to pause an animation, which is true on the web. Oh, it's true everywhere really. The WCAG guidelines say if there is an animation, you should be able to pause it. But obviously, for like the only way you can really pause a GIF is if you use JavaScript. So for us in email, there's no way for us to allow you to pause it. So we were brainstorming ways that you could kind of do that. None of them really ticked the boxes on every email client. So one was, you know, you could have it so that it was like a click to reveal. So if you clicked on it, and maybe if you hovered on it, this button would come up or something like that. And then when you clicked on it, then it would like swap the GIF for the static image. So, but then you're limited to the number of email clients that allow you to do that, like click to reveal or that checkbox hack. Then because we spoke about hovering, they were like, oh, what if you hover on it, it just stops. So you can do the same effect really, where you hover on something, you can swap it to a static image. But then mobile you can't hover. So there was always kind of stop it. So yeah, I think we actually ended up kind of to what you said, which was animate it for a short period of time, and then like either stop the animation completely, or I think we were saying like, you know, if you want the animation to go on forever, maybe let it run through like 2 or 3 times, and then in a GIF itself, pause it for like 20 seconds or something. So it's a really long time, and then it can start again, kind of thing. So you just pause on a frame. So you can't manually like click to pause it. But
I believe, doesn't the Outlook client for desktop add a like pause function or stop function?
Yeah, there's a play button to play it, and then when you first open it, I believe it does only play through a set number of times. I can't remember exactly how many, but it might be 3. It might be like what you were saying. I think it does play it through like a couple of times, and then you have to press play again for it to happen again. So that's really good. I think that if they did implement that because of accessibility, then yeah, it was really good.
The only thing I found is that it adds a 1 pixel border around the image or the animated GIF. So if you have like, I don't know, different background colors and things, it can just nudge it out that slight, just slightly. So it's just something to be aware of, really. Yeah, but it's not a bad thing.
No.
One thing Outlook has done well.
Yeah, definitely for accessibility. Yeah. I actually I've built a tool for some of our clients where they can drop in a YouTube link, and then we automatically get the thumbnail and put a play button on it for them. So I think that might be a cool tool actually for everybody. I might think about see if I can put that together where you could like upload an image and then like click a button and you could add a transparent triangle play button on it, and then you add like a custom image on top. Or if you do have a YouTube link or a Vimeo link, maybe you could paste that in, and then I'll automatically grab the thumbnail, and then you can choose your play button to go on. I guess that would be quite handy if you don't have access to someone with Photoshop or things like that. Then it might be quite cool. I think
there's actually a link on Parcel.io in their resources.
I think they have one actually.
But I think it's just like one play button, like you upload your image, or I think you might give it the like YouTube link or hosted video link, and then it'll overlay the play button, and you can
just like the YouTube play button or something. Yeah. No, I think I have done it before as well. Yeah.
I think it's a Vimeo button.
Yeah, it'd be cool to maybe I'll have a look and see if there's a way that we can make that a thing.
Cool to have the option of the different play buttons. Because
or even upload like a custom play button. Like I guess quite a lot of the brands we've worked with, they have play buttons that they use on their websites or whatever. So I guess if you have access to that file, then you could upload that.
Yeah, well, it'll help with consistency, won't it? Against all media. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a good thing. It can't be a bad thing. It's just another thing for you to build, Jay. Just another thing. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's pretty much covered everything. We covered WebPs, covered APNGs.
Oh, you know what we haven't spoken about?
Ooh, what haven't we spoken about?
Background images.
Background images.
Yeah, and your force absolute position technique as well.
The overlay, absolute positioning.
Yeah, the overlay.
Yeah. So with that, it's a mixture of background image and actually images and hacks within Outlook. What specifically were you thinking?
I was thinking so we've tended to not background images for a few years now, mainly due to dark mode, and then also the accessibility problem with VM, where if you use VML as a background, if there's a link inside it, it's not accessible via a keyboard. So that stops anyone accessing a link on top of a VML background image.
Yes.
So the only way that you could do a background image, if you had to do one, would be to use the overlay that you were talking about. So yeah, I mean, the main reasons we don't really use background images anymore is that dark mode problem, where if you put some text over a background image, if you've got like a dark background image, you might use some white text.
Yeah.
But then on dark mode, it will flip that text to black, but your image obviously won't change. So then
But there are hacks in place that you can use. Like
there are, but they don't work everywhere.
Okay.
And then also you're also limited as well. So you can, if you've got white text, it's very easy to make it stay white. Whereas if you've got black text, it's harder to make it stay black. And then if you've got any other color, you have to look up the blend modes and try and figure out which colors you might want to use to try and get it to work. So you can kind of make it work, but then you're still having that same problem of you wouldn't be able to have a background image in Outlook for Windows Desktop. So in that instance, what do? You just not give them a background image? You just turn it to a plain color? And if you did that, did you really need the background image in the first place? Like, is it worth the extra effort if you can just like, get away with it? I mean, we've done it before where we've like stuck the image above in Outlook. So like there's no background image in Outlook, but we show a specific image above it for it. But
Yeah.
we found that quite a lot of the time when we were loading background images before dark mode, a lot of it was just textures. There wasn't really like there was no real need for the background image to be there. So we often decided like we just wouldn't bother with it. So yeah, we've done that. But yeah, when we've had to, then I've always gone for the overlay position kind of way to fix it instead. That's why.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the way overlay works is essentially you have an image, right, and then you put some content below it, and then you like move the text up, so it like sits.
So you have so you put the image in a container and then make the container smaller, but you still view the overflow essentially. So realistically, like if you think about a photo in a frame, the photo might be 6 by 6 by 4, 6 by 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the frame is technically just like credit card size, maybe, but you still see the whole photo. But anything within the frame is moved. So it is quite a clever way. I can't take all credit for that. It was a joint effort between like Mark, Remy, and me. I think most of it was Mark, to be fair. I just did the write-up and played around with it and did a couple of extra experiments like for the Litmus Live talk and things like that. But yeah, it's again, depends if you need that background image, and obviously we try and make everything as accessible as possible. So it's just going with what your use case is.
Yeah, I would definitely like, if you needed to have something slightly overlapping, instead of reaching for a background image, I would now always tend to go for positioning stuff on it. And then if there was any issues in dark mode, then I know that I can maneuver it so that it just moves below or does something else rather than, and I found that is way easier than trying to like make Gmail keep the text white with a blend mode and then try and use like a different targeting for Outlook with the web text hack and then try and figure out like something else for something else. And it's like you're building hack on top of hack on top of hack. And then
just adding to the file way.
Yeah, one works, then one stops the other one working, so you've got to figure out how to fix the other one, and it's just like a constant like whack-a-mole kind of thing with hacks to get dark mode to work.
Yeah,
and
I was just going to say,
an email client will just update, and then it'll all break anyway.
Yeah, I was just going to say your whack-a-mole analogy just made me think of there's an animated button. I think it's like 3 buttons, like fast, cheap, and what was the third one?
Good quality or something?
Yeah, quality. And then like if you click one, the other 2 move, or vice versa. And I just had that in my head. Like
it definitely feels like that.
Does it work in Gmail, Outlook, and Yahoo? Switch off. Does it work in Yahoo? Does it work in Gmail and stuff like that? But yeah. The thing,
background images were a bit like that anyway, right? When I wrote an article, like one of the first articles I wrote probably like 7 or 8 years ago was how to get background images to work everywhere. And it's just an insane amount of work that you have to do to make them work in all email clients. So yeah, it's just, there's a lot going on to get that to work. And then as soon as dark mode came in, you were like building on top of that. And it was like,
and then the trouble with dark mode as well is where email clients don't give you ability to obviously tweak things. For instance, there's some versions of Outlook where it inverts everything regardless, and there is just nothing you can really do about it, unfortunately. So you just have to make it
you make
work.
It legible, basically, right? You do that. We always like, when we're talking about dark mode and trying to get it to work for all the different email clients, we always say that we'll do our best, but there are some email clients where we're literally just going to make sure you can still read the email, and that's the best we can do because we can't do anything else. I have thought of another topic to do with images.
Yeah, fire away.
Is text in images. how
I
you handle
tend
that.
to avoid it where possible. I believe we actually did cover this topic in
Yeah.
the first episode.
Yeah. No, actually, no, you're right. Yeah, because we were talking about typography, weren't we, and text and stuff. So we were talking about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just thinking that like one of the main things that we often think about with email and putting text in images is the way that you might make if you don't swap the image from desktop to mobile, so you just have one image and it shrinks down,
Mm-hmm.
that text needs to be readable. And a lot of the times that we've come up across that problem is because of drag and drop editors or ESP editors, something like that, where there isn't an easy way to make an image for desktop and one for mobile. So you're stuck with one image.
Yeah.
So then anything you put in there gets shrunk right down and you can't read it, that kind of thing. Yeah, I guess that's the only other real thing with images, isn't it? Like you don't know one. I don't think anyone really says that the best practice is to do all image emails.
If only.
Yeah. It would make life a bit easier. Even if you don't think about the accessibility problems of all image emails and the deliverability problems of all image emails, the last straw, the last nail in the coffin, I reckon, was the AI summaries for as well, because Siri doesn't read alt text or text in images. So
Right.
if you have an all image email, then it's the AI summary is not going to read anything. And if Apple goes down the same route that Gemini have gone, where they give you, instead of showing you like an inbox, they give you like a summary of your emails and they just highlight things.
Yeah.
Then if Apple goes that way, if it can't pull anything from your email, then it's not going to include you in that summary. So
it might just pull through view online, unsubscribe.
Yeah. I think there's two things I've seen with the AI summaries that Apple does. The one of them, it says, is this message is too short to summarize,
Okay.
which is kind of cool. And then the other one is, it just pulls through like unsubscribe, privacy policy, view online, and it's like, that's not really what we want to. I'm sure that's not really what you wanted people to summarize from your email. Make sure you've got some live text in there with all those images we've just been talking about. But yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, I was just going to ask one more thing about text as image. Well, I think there's quite a few drag and drop editors where you can show and hide images for mobile.
Mm-hmm.
But have you ever come across an instance where you've had to do another image for mobile? And if so, what size did you go with?
So we always tend to go with the breakpoint that we've set.
Yeah.
So we either have one or two breakpoints in the majority of our emails. So we tend to say that desktop is kind of 600 pixels wide, 640 pixels wide.
Mm-hmm.
And then we either break as soon as you kind of go under that. So as you go under kind of 600, we'll show you a smaller version.
Yeah.
But most of the time we go from 600 to something. And then at like 400, we go to something else. So then you've got smaller mobile phones are like 320 to 380 to 390 pixels wide. So you've kind of, that's a very small screen. And then between kind of 400 to 600 is like maybe tablets or previews in like inboxes or smaller previews of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we would swap the image at whatever point made sense. So if the image was like full width, and then you could get away with it down to 400 pixels and it still looked okay, we wouldn't swap it at all. And then if you only needed to swap it for below 400 pixels on a smaller screen, then we'd swap it then. But yeah, we try as much as possible not to have to swap images. So as a blanket rule, we tend not to put any text in images. So we don't really have that problem of like the text and the right size. The more often than not, it's the aspect ratio that we change. So instead of a really wide image on desktop, we tend to go a squarer image on mobile. So then, or even a shorter image on mobile, because if there's a lot of content and you're scrolling through, we want to make it as small as possible. So we might shrink the height of the image or something like that. That tends to be where we would swap images, like cropping it or something like that, rather than providing a different version. Unless we're trying to do something stupid like create a warm mosaic grid and then flip it and all the images swap or something, like that would be a whole different ball game. But yeah.
Speaking of mosaics, you've just triggered a memory for me. Can you remember? I think it was Email on Acid, where if like images were off, you could choose for it to make a mosaic.
The pixel image, yeah.
So basically, you use tables with background colors, I believe.
Yeah. So
like make
we
a
did.
mosaic of your image if it wasn't
Yeah,
shown.
yeah. I mean, it's a really good technique. So we have done it a couple of times at Action Rocket, and I've painstakingly done it. And I must admit, it's worth it on a simpler image, maybe not on the harder images. So the two that I can remember is we did it for a Christmas tree design, where it was like a triangle of black, a triangle of white, a triangle of black. So then making a table do that was actually quite simple. Like it was just rows on top of rows kind of thing, and it was not too bad. And then you just like black, white, etc. So that was a really simple. The other one that we did was for Transformers on the PlayStation. So when that launched, so we took the whole image and then sliced it in a way that when the image wasn't, so we sliced the image, and then when the image didn't load, the box that was left where the image was, we could color it either white or blue, the PlayStation blue, and then you could see the Transformer head. So we cut it so it looked like the Transformer head, very blocky.
Oh, that's
so yeah,
pretty
we've done
cool.
it. Yeah. And then the other one, which was before my time, but I've looked at the code, is Elliot did it for O2. And O2 used to have their emails. I think they still actually have their branding where it's like the sky, where it goes from like blue to white. It's like a gradient.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he made an email, which I still don't like, still blows my mind that he even did it. But it was on either side of this image where they used like a background linear gradient to go down. He created like I can't remember how many rows, like say 100 rows, and every single row was 1 pixel, and it was just the blue. So he manually created the gradient from top to bottom by 1 pixel lines of color in a table.
Historically, I've done something similar, not to that extent, but to get like fake, like a fake box shadow.
Yeah.
Like,
I've done the same.
I've done like 1 pixel wide columns, and basically what I did to achieve it was basically open Photoshop, draw a box, put the drop shadow on there, and then use the color picker tool to get the different grays, and then just obviously put the background color as for that 1 pixel column as that, and then copy paste.
Definitely done definitely done the drop shadow thing. But never. That is the most extensive like color gradient I've ever seen someone do with like. Honestly, I don't even. It must have been before Gmail truncated email. Have been. I think it was even before they had mobile responsive email. So I think it was literally just the desktop one.
That's a pretty cool thought, though.
Yeah. So it's definitely possible. But yeah, I dread to think how long it took. But yeah, I'm sure someone mentioned it like within the last year, and I think there is still a tool out there. It's not the email on acid one. I don't know where that went. There is
I think
a tool
that's retired now, to be honest.
I think there's tools out there where you can like turn it into pixel art, so you can like drop in your image, and then it will literally change every single pixel to a table cell, and it will just give you the problem I found with it when I tested it was that it literally took every table cell as a pixel. So if you've got like a 600 pixel by 600 pixel,
right, it didn't kind of condense it.
No. I think there was some way you could condense it a little bit, but it wasn't very much. So even like, so you literally had a table which was like 600 columns by 600 rows, and then every single box. So it outputted the code, but as soon as you like pasted that into a HTML template, it was way over 100 kilobytes, and you hadn't even. That was like a 200 by 200 pixel image or something, so it wasn't worth it. But yeah, no, pixel art's definitely still a thing. We don't see it very often anymore. I must admit that image blocking used to be much more of a problem, I think. From pretty much all the testing we do now, the only reason your images get blocked is if you're in spam, or you've got like a B2B business where they have security set up where images are blocked by default and you have to turn them on. So but we tend not to work with we work with some B2B clients, but the majority of ours are like B2C. So it's normally like I would receive an email from like a restaurant or something. So I don't have images blocked by default. That.
I was just thinking creating a pizza out of
that Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's been discussed, and I'm sure I've said no. Yeah.
No more
I probably
rows, no more cells.
started it, and I was like, yeah. Oh, that's fine. I've definitely it's one of the slides on a course that I used to deliver with pixel art, and I definitively remember the tree because I remember doing that. That was like one of the first things I ever did as a developer. But then the transformer one was really cool. Yeah. I'm sure there must be other examples out there of pixel art that people have done.
We'll have to ask our audience to send us some examples if they come across any.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I think that's a pretty good place to stop.
Yeah, there's a lot of image stuff that we've definitely covered there.
just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us for this month's episode, and we'll see you next time. And I believe the next episode will be a guest appearance again. But who knows who that's gonna be? Find out on the next installment of Let's Talk Email. All right. Bye, guys.